A train station without a schedule. They say vivid dreams come when something inside us is unstable anxiety, doubts, unresolved feelings. Often that's true, but there are other cases as well. Sometimes dreams come when the day is full, when you're not just living but truly experiencing life. Today was exactly that kind of day, warm, eventful, joyful. Everything fell into place as it should, and there was no anxiety inside, only fatigue and a bright sense of completion. I went to bed with a smile, feeling that the day had truly been alive. And, it seemed, that was exactly what led to a dream that is remembered just as vividly as the day itself. I dreamed that I was standing at an old train station. It was either early morning or late evening. The sky was grey, the light dim, without any shadows. The station looked abandoned, yet clean, as if time had simply slowed down here. The platforms were empty, the rails stretched off into the distance, disappearing into a light mist. The electronic display overhead was on, but showed nothing, just the blinking 0, 0, 0, 0. I walked along the platforms, trying to figure out where I had come. Everything felt real. Even the air smelled of cold metal and wet wood. In the distance, I noticed a person. He was standing, leaning against a post. As I got closer, I saw an elderly man with a tired but kind face. He was wearing a coat similar to the one my grandfather used to wear. In his hands, he held a ticket, neatly folded in half. He was looking at the empty tracks, as if waiting for something, but appeared completely calm. I stood next to him, not breaking the silence. He noticed me, smiled slightly, and said, "This train doesn't arrive on schedule. It comes when you're ready to go." I wanted to ask where it was headed, but at that moment, the sound of an approaching train could be heard in the distance. We both turned around, and there was nothing. Only the wind swept across the platform. When I turned back, the man had disappeared. Only the ticket remained, neatly lying on the bench. I walked up to the display board. It flickered and showed a new message. Next, time unknown. I stood there, wondering whether to leave or stay. And at that moment, I woke up. Bright days leave behind not only memories, but also space for dreams. Maybe on days like these, the soul just wants to keep traveling while the body rests. The clock read 0000. I lay in the darkness for a few minutes, trying to make sense of what had happened. It was a strange feeling, as if I had just returned from a train station, not from another city, but from another state of being. I got up, poured myself some water, and walked over to the window. The street was empty. The air was cool and clear. Inside, there was a sense of peace. I took out my notebook and quickly wrote down what I had seen, while the images were still fresh. I wanted to preserve that feeling, to capture the details before they scattered like smoke in a dream. I lay down again, not planning to sleep, but sleep crept up quietly and confidently, bringing with it another scene. Now I found myself on a train. The cars were old, with fabric seats and wooden armrests. I was traveling alone. Outside the window, the landscape slid by. Fields, occasional trees, half-ruined stations. It seemed as if the train was moving not through geography, but through time. At some point, a man sat down across from me, a tall figure in a long worn coat, with a face that seemed to blur, making it impossible to make out his features. He had strange eyes, as if the sky, cracked and fractured, was reflected in them. He pulled a case out from under his coat, and I noticed that inside were metal gears, antique compasses, and crystals shimmering with a strange color. "Where are you from?" I asked, surprised at my own boldness. "From a station that hasn't been built yet," he replied, without looking up. "We check the integrity of the route. Sometimes things leak out in dreams." He handed me a round object that looked like a pocket watch, but instead of hands, rings with symbols spun inside. "This is your map. Just remember, what seems forgotten isn't necessarily lost." I wanted to ask who he was, but he had already gotten up and walked down the carriage aisle. I watched him go until he disappeared, dissolving into the white light beyond the window. When I woke up, my hand felt cold, as if I had really been holding metal, and in my mind there was a strange sense that I had been given not an object, but a direction, and now I needed to remember where it led. Before I try to make sense of this dream, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. This way you won't miss any new stories. And of course, share in the comments. What would you do if you received a map to something you had forgotten? The dream about the train station is one of those dreams that comes not as an image, but as a message. It doesn't bring anxiety, nor does it evoke strong emotions, but it leaves a sense of such significance, as if an inner signal light has turned on, yet the path itself is still shrouded in fog. Here is my interpretation in simple terms. I visited the station where time had stopped. but had not died. It was simply waiting along with me. This place wasn't frightening. On the contrary, it was filled with a silence full of meaning, as if someone had carved a moment out of eternity and placed it in my palm. I didn't know why I had come there, but I felt it was a place of transition, not an end or a beginning, but an intermediate point. A station between who I was and who I could become, between the past and the future. The 0-hour point. The elderly man was not just a guide. He was a part of me that had already lived through so much. Wise, calm, unhurried, he had my grandfather's face, but in reality, it was the face of my inner elder, the one who already knows there's no need to rush, and that every train arrives not according to a schedule, but according to inner readiness. When he said, "This train doesn't come on schedule, it comes when you're ready to go," I heard not a phrase, but an answer to a question that had long lived inside me without words. Am I ready to go? Am I ready to change my reality, to accept change, to leave something behind? I didn't receive an order, I was given a choice, and there was deep meaning in that. The ticket remained as a sign that the decision was already within me. I don't need to rush anywhere, the train will come when I am truly ready. And the board displaying "Next time unknown" is a reflection of my current state. Everything is ready, but the step is up to me. The inner hour has come, not on the clock, but in the soul. And when I woke up and saw the clock showing 0000, I realized it's not just a time of night. It's a symbol of an inner beginning, a reset, a state of readiness. What is this dream telling me? The station is my inner space of waiting, transition, and maturity. Midnight, or 0-hour 0 minutes, is not emptiness, but a blank page, a beginning, potential. The elderly man is my inner sage. He already knows there's no need to rush. The ticket is a sign that I have the right to move forward. I have already received everything. All that's left is to make up my mind. The train is a symbol of change, transition, transformation. It doesn't come from the outside. It responds to readiness within. The silence and lack of a schedule are a hint. This is not an external process, it is an internal choice. It wasn't a dream with a riddle, it was a threshold dream. I was standing at my own inner boundary. To cross over doesn't mean to run away. To cross over means to mature. The dream about the train is a continuation of the previous one. But now it's not about waiting, it's about moving. If the station was a space of inner readiness, then the train here is my transition into the realm of memory, time, and most importantly, meaning. This is an initiatory dream, in which a guide appears, and a map is given not of the external world, but of the soul's inner journey. When I arrived at the place, it became clear to me the waiting was over. The dream did not repeat, it continued. I didn't just stay at the station, I boarded the train, which moves not through space, but through time. Each fleeting station outside the window was like a forgotten scene from life, half ruined but not vanished. I was traveling alone, but I didn't feel lonely. It was a journey inward, without names or addresses. And when a man in a cloak sat down across from me, I realized this was no random fellow traveler, but someone who appears when you're ready to hear things that are never spoken aloud. His face slipped away like a reflection on water, because he wasn't anyone specific, but rather the figure of an archetype. Maybe Kronos, maybe the keeper of time, maybe a part of my future that has come back to deliver a message. When he opened the case, and I saw gears, compasses, and crystals, I understood these were mechanisms for orienting not in the world, but in destiny. This is a tool for those who follow the line of meaning, not a route. And when he said, "We check the integrity of routes, sometimes something leaks out in dreams," I felt that my dreams are not just random images, but places where I gather what was lost, where I restore connections between my former self, my future self, and my forgotten self. He handed me a strange object, like a pocket watch, but inside there were no hands, only rotating rings with symbols. This is not a tool for measuring time. It is an inner map of my memory, of my journey, and his words, "What seems forgotten does not mean it is lost," became a key for me, because that is the essence. I have not lost it. I simply do not remember, but now I can. When he left and dissolved into the white light, I did not feel emptiness. I felt that something important had been given to me. Not an object, but a direction, a vector, a meaning. And when I woke up and my palm felt cold, as if from metal, I realized this object was not a metaphor, but an action. It had crossed the boundary between worlds. What is this dream showing me? The train is my movement through inner time. Not a recollection, but a journey inward. The old stations and landscapes are layers of the past, where forgotten meanings reside. The figure in the cloak is my inner guide, connected to wisdom, intuition, and perhaps the future. The case with mechanisms is a sign that I have both the right and the tools to navigate the unconscious. The time card is my ability to read my inner navigation, to sense where to lead myself. The phrase about the forgotten is a reminder. Nothing within you is lost. Everything can be reclaimed if you go there. This dream does not require haste. It gives me the tool and the right to move forward. That's how it turned out. If these dreams resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit the bell icon. And be sure to share in the comments what you think about these dreams. Which images caught your attention? And maybe you've seen something similar yourself? Write about your dreams, and we'll reflect on them together.